Okay, and get to present mode. Great, so thank you. Good morning. Thank you for attending today's bite-sized webinar on bulk updating item due dates in LEAP. So bulk updating due dates is a new feature that we have access to after our most recent software update. And this feature allows library staff to essentially shift the due dates of a set of items and was designed to be used in case of unexpected closures, so which we are all subject to at this point of time. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted online, so you can watch at a later date if you are interested. Feel free to share with your colleagues who were not able to make it today. So in today's session, I'm going to start by giving an overview of the bulk update process. We'll review some important guidelines and some general information about the feature. I'll do a full demonstration of the bulk update, and then we'll definitely have time for Q&A at the end, and I'll just show you some links where you can get additional information on this function. So with that, let's get started. So the first on our agenda is that short overview of the bulk update process. When I say short, I mean short. Thankfully, it's not an involved process as you will soon see. So there's two main stages to bulk updating these due dates. For the first stage, we'll be working in the LEAP Find tool, and we'll use the Find tool to search for and identify our items. And then we'll also, within the Find tool, add our items to a record set. And then the second stage, you'll use that record set to reset the due dates in bulk. And it's a very simple action in the record set. So we're going to walk through this entire process together in detail during the demo. Before we begin the demonstration, I do want to take a few minutes to review some important guidelines and share some general information with you first. So let's start with those important guidelines because that's really the exciting part. The first guideline, and this will probably be very obvious to you, you should only bulk update items checked out from your library. You do not want to bulk update items checked out from a different library and end up causing confusion with those patrons. Thankfully, the LEAP Find tool makes it very easy to limit items this way. I'll show you how during that demonstration. And I know we've got some ILL people here in the audience, and I just want to make clear, so the guideline to update items checked out from your library, that does include intra-CCS interlibrary loan items. Since those intra-CCS items were checked out from your location, they are eligible for the update. So again, it's that frame of items checked out from your library. And the second guideline has to do with the max limits for your update. So Innovative strongly recommends updating no more than 1,000 item records at a time. And this cap is to avoid performance issues like LEAP freezing up on you. So this type of update does take more resources than a typical item bulk update. So we do need to be a little more conservative with how many records we do at once. If you do find you need to update more than 1,000 item records, you can absolutely reach out to CCS and we can modify due dates on our back end. So just a quick recap of our two important guidelines: only bulk change items checked out from your library, and update no more than 1,000 item records at a time. Any questions about those before we move on? Oh, I do have a chat here. Let me just check it real quick. Yes, Karen asked, can you do multiple updates? You absolutely can. So if you do find you have a significant amount of items to update, you can definitely sort those items into multiple record sets. So you could essentially do like one record set of like 700 items, a second record set of like 500 items, and then do the update on each record set one at a time. It's a good question. Okay, so the other part of this section, I just want to give you some basic information about the parameters of this functionality so you understand it and what it's doing. If you are familiar with the reset due date function in a patron's record, much of this will sound really familiar to you. So the first thing, um, bulk reset due date function, it's not considered a renewal. So all we're doing here is modifying the due date. A renewal count will not be taken from the item. So if a patron has 2 renewals left on the item, they will still have those 2 renewals left after you complete the update. Um, Leap does not have the ability to bulk reset overdue items. So again, just like that reset due date function in a patron's record, any items that are already overdue are not eligible for this update. If you do try to update an already overdue item, the bulk change will just pass right over it. So reach out to CCS if you need to update items that were due in the past. We can modify those on our end. The third piece about this is that you will see an alert for item blocks. So as we see in the demo, during the update process, Leap will pause and display an alert if it detects an item block. And for each item, you'll need to choose whether you want to continue to update that item or cancel the update to that item. And item blocks will include things like a library assigned block, such as check contents or send to repair, or a free text block like check for 4 disks. Um, Unfortunately, we cannot turn these pop-ups off or configure a way where you can like confirm or cancel them all at once. So you will need to manage them one by one, unfortunately. Along those same lines, while we see the item block alerts, you will not see alerts for patron blocks. Since this isn't a new checkout or a renewal, the process isn't looking at patron blocks. And the last general guideline, I'm just want to make sure, there we go. The last general parameter of this functionality, patrons are not notified of the due date change. So this update process will not prompt a notice or issue an e-receipt to patrons. So if you want to get the word out to your users, we'll need to stick to our usual methods. So CCS can post a banner on the Power Pack for you, or your library can send an email blast out using your own marketing tools. But nothing will be issued from the Polaris ILS. So okay, so we looked at 2 guidelines to follow and just a handful of general information about the feature. I'm going to pause and just see what questions you may have about these before we move into the demonstration part. Keep thinking. If you have any, we'll definitely have time at the end to go over them.
Oh,
Oh,
well, I
sorry.
do.
Yeah.
Use the item blocks. So if like a lot of the books on CDs have the blocks that say how many discs are in there, so it would stop on something like that.
It would.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Karen, it would.
Mhm.
Just keep thinking about those questions, but let's move into our demonstration at this time. So in my demonstration, I work at Lake Villa, and my library has a building emergency that we find out about last minute and that we need to close tomorrow, January 21st. So in preparation for the closure, I'm going to update items due back tomorrow and extend their due date 1 day. So again, our first step for this process is to identify and add items to a record set. Let me just pause and check chat real quick. So choose. I'm glad you asked this, and this is going to come up during the demonstration. the question is, will this apply to ILL items that we checked out to our patron? This will, any CCS item checked out at your location will get wrapped up in this bulk update. When we see in the demonstration, LEAP will not bulk update out-of-system interlibrary loans. So this process will not apply to out-of-system items. Those the library will need to look for and change manually. So let me switch over. I'm just going to back out of my slideshow, and I'm going to move over to Leap right now. And let me get rid of my bookmarks real quick because I find that kind of distracting. Okay. So again, the first step is to search for these items. I am going to open up my Leap Find tool. Since we need to search for item records, I am going to change my record type from my default setting here to item record, and that's going to be the first part of my setup. So there are 3 conditions that we will apply to our search. These conditions are listed on your agenda and in the website documentation, and we're also going to go through them one by one here. Okay, so the first condition, I'm sure you all remember our first important guideline: only bulk update due dates of items checked out at your library. Like I said earlier, thankfully there is a very easy way in LEAP to limit to these types of items. So this third column in our find tool, this is our qualifier column. And I'm just going to click to open it. This column includes an option to search by loaning branch. So I'm just going to scroll down here until I get to that area. And loaning branch is what allows us to limit based on the checkout library or the loaning library. And as you see here, there's nothing for you to type. It's one of those where you can select your location from the list. So I'm just going to open up my list here and select my library, which is Lake Villa. If you have a drive up branch or a similar pick point branch, don't forget to include that as well. So I'm going to select my home delivery branch. And going back to Karen's question earlier about like, can you do like multiple sets of items? If you have different pickup points, let's say you have your inside pickup point and you have like your drive up window pickup point, you can certainly repeat this process. And the first time, maybe just choose your main location. And then the second time, choose your branch location or your drive up window location. Okay, so our first condition is set. We've got our loaning branch input. Next, we want to limit to items due back on our closed date. So to add another condition, I'm just going to click on this funnel icon at the end of my search bar and click Add Condition. To limit based on due date, we will use the filter Date Due. And then you can enter in your relevant dates in the from and to fields. Since my library will be closed one day, I am going to use that date in both my from field and my to field. So let me make sure I've got January 21st to January 21st. Second condition is set. Okay, so we have conditions that will filter based on loaning branch and date due. So the final condition is to add a filter that will exclude integrated e-content. So those would be things like Overdrive ebooks that appear on the user's list of checkouts. I'm going to click my little plus sign at the end of my bar to add another condition and use the drop down to find e-content integrated. Since we want to exclude content, we want the filter to say no for no e-content. So you may be wondering, what will happen if we forget to exclude e-content? Leap basically can't reset e-content dates, so nothing nothing bad is going to happen, right? You're not going to mess up a user's e-content checkout in any way. What this filter will help us with, if we accidentally bring in e-content into our bulk change, you're going to see a not permitted pop-up for every e-content item in that list. So adding this condition and excluding e-content right from the get-go helps us avoid seeing and having to click through all those alerts when we do our update. So taking a few seconds to add this condition will definitely save you some time later on. Okay, we've got all three of our conditions in place. I will click apply. And now my search, I am going to click the magnifying glass to launch the search. Okay, so our second important guideline was that we don't want to update more than 1,000 item records at a time. So before we move on to the next step, we just want to make sure that the number in the lower right corner, where it tells you how many records it's filtered down to, is below our limit. So my search here tells me I've filtered down to 162 records, well below our limit. And now I'm going to add all of these records to a record set. So for that, we will not be using this add to record set button at the bottom here, because this adds records one at a time and no one has. Instead, we're going to set this up so it dumps our entire search results into a single record set at once. And to do this, I'm going to start by clicking the shopping back icon at the end of my search bar. And this is the record set options icon. So when I click that, it's going to open up a new options screen. All I need to do is select this checkbox for send results to a new record set. And then I'm going to name the record set. So I'm going to stick to some naming conventions here. I will use my library's 3-letter code, my initials, and then the rest of my name. So I'll just say closed Jan 21st. I'm also going to change the owner from my username to my branch or library level. So I'm going to change it to Lakeville Library, BR for branch, only because if it's saved to my individual username, I'm the only one who can see the set. So this way, if my coworker or CCS needs to access the record set, they can. And then I just click apply. So now you'll see that this record set, this icon, this shopping bag icon, is highlighted green. And this means our record set option is active. So all I need to do to add all of my records at once to a record set is just click the magnifying glass to relaunch, and it will automatically dump everything in. So before I open up the record set, just like Chusri asked earlier about those ILLs, I just want to point out here that it automatically took out my 2 out of system interlibrary loan records from my set. So Leap will automatically exclude those items. If you do have out of system ILLs, you may need to search for and update those items separately, unfortunately. So I'm just going to say now I've got all my items in a record set. I'm going to say yes to open up my record set and finish resetting those due dates. This is going to be the easiest part of the whole process. In the item record set, open the top actions menu, and you'll see an option here for reset due dates. When I click that, it will open up a calendar, and here I can check the select the new due date. So I will say I told you I was going to extend those one day, so I'm going to select Saturday the 22nd as a new due date. And then all you have to do is click reset due dates. So the process will likely take a few minutes, especially if you have a larger record set. So for some context, I did an update for about 250 items in our production database, and it took somewhere between like 1:30 and 2 minutes to update. Now we see our item blocks. So if an item has a block attached to it, again, the process is going to pause so we can review the block. And for each blocked item, you'll have to tell Leap either to continue to update the item or skip the item by clicking cancel. Again, this process does not consider patron blocks. So if there is an expired patron, you won't be alerted to those types of situations. The item will continue to update since the patron already has the item at home, and it's not considered a renewal or a new checkout. So when I see these item blocks for my demo, I'm just going to say continue. And when complete, Leap will tell you how many items were successfully updated. If we canceled any of those items, we would also see a pop-up telling us that the due date failed for X number of items. And that's it. That's the update process. So unlike a normal item bulk update, a summary is not generated. So we don't have a related report to review. We basically just have to just go with what the record set tells us. I will show you real quick though. I'm just going to open up one of these records here. So when the due date is reset, an entry is added to the item's history. So I'm in an item right now, and I'm just going to click into the item history tab. And it might take a few seconds to pop open, but you'll see here, an entry was added that the due date was reset at 10:24 a.m. by me. So this is the same kind of history action description that you'll see if the item was reset from a patron's record. So unfortunately, Leap doesn't like differentiate if it was done in bulk or if it was done individually, but it at least has a history action recorded. Okay, let me go back to my slides. So that, in a nutshell, is the bulk reset due date feature in Leap. So let's pause now, and I will take whatever questions you have.
After you do the, the bulk due date update, you could actually do that find again on that same date, and it should not find any things due then, correct? I mean,
Yeah,
if you kind of wanted to
correct.
see,
Correct.
except for maybe,
Those ILLs will probably pop
yeah,
up. Yeah,
right.
and then if you canceled any of those items, those will also pop up.
Gotcha. I mean,
So
that would
that's
just be a check if you wanted to check to see.
exact. Yes.
And, what is your thought on, like the number of things that you may have to, approve or cancel, like continue or cancel? Do you think you think there would be a lot of those?
It may depend on the library and how your library uses blocks. Um,
Mhm.
I would say so. It would in my demo 162 items, and I think I encountered about 2 blocks.
Mhm.
So and that was like an organic process. I didn't have like my item plants that I sometimes do in demos just so things pop up. So
So yeah, I guess it
hopefully,
would be dependent on how your library does your items. Like we
yeah,
usually do not put like how many, like the notes like that, except for we do have like some puzzles, where we have the number of puzzle pieces, but again, that would probably be the only thing that would pop up on ours.
yeah.
So
So
like you said, I guess it depends on how your library handles different
yeah,
things.
hopefully it won't be an overwhelming and increase your time too much there. Um, Yeah, so True Story mentions that they have a DVD to go machine that's not part of their library. That is configured as a separate branch. You can change the due dates for that as well. And Jan asked, would the items go over 1,000? There's a couple options for that. Always, 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 if you want to contact CCS, we are more than happy to make these updates for you. If this is something you wanted to do individually and you have over 1,000 items, you may need to separate those items into two or more record sets. Um, so depending on how that divides out, you might need to maybe search for um, re-perform the search for like one branch at a time, or if you are changing the dates for maybe like a range, let's say you're doing like a week that you're closed, um, you could, search for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and save those to one record set, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, save those to another record set.
Could you also add to your filter, like material type or something?
Yes, definitely. You could
No.
also separate out by collection, by material type, um, whatever will help you. And then we had a couple of questions about the record sets. After we finish the record set, do we need to go back and delete? It's up to you when you want to delete those record sets. If you wanted to hang on to them, for a couple days, just to kind of make sure like your closing is okay, you don't need to extend those dates further. You can hang on to them. Or if you feel like you don't need the record set, go ahead and delete it right away, because you can always redo search, right? And yes, uh, the question is, do those sets get saved? Yes, they are saved, and yes, you can search for them. So they'll exist in the database until you delete them. Real quick, I'm happy to stay on and take whatever other questions you have, but I just want to point out real quick. So again, the session is recorded, will be posted online. Once the recording is ready, I will also send it out to anyone who registered, along with the slides and a link to our trading eval. In a moment, I'm going to post that eval link to chat if anyone's able to fill it out now. Eval really helps us out, especially if you have ideas about suggestions for future training ideas. So your agenda does include links to these resources. We have step-by-step instructions on the CCS website, and also short, I think it's like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, excuse me, YouTube video about bulk updating item due dates in LEAP. And of course, if any questions come up after the session, feel free to reach out to me directly or email help@ccslib.org. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stop the recording.